Hello, chess fam. It's me, National Master Jesse James, and today we're taking a look at another personal game of mine. And this one I'm playing against a new player in San Antonio's chess club, or Complete Chess. We're looking at a game with Dominic Armstrong, a very strong player here. Let's see how it goes. This was our first game playing. I've seen him be playing a bit, but this is the first time we actually got paired up in the few months that we play in the same tournament on Wednesdays. So we started off with d4. I'm playing with the white pieces. I had seen him play before, so I decided to go for a positional game and not go for e4. You know, a strong master can always choose the kind of tempo of the game that they want, especially against certain opponents. d5, knight f3, knight f6, bishop g5. Here we got our Tory attack. Here we played knight b to d7. A very interesting move. I don't see this too often, but I mean, I don't think this is bad by any means. Pawn e3, h6, bishop h4, and here I will criticize this pawn to g5 move. It's just a little too robust. It's just a little too fast here. It's yeah. Although right now it is already a little bit of a weakness, it's going to be a bigger weakness later on, and you're going to see how that happens on the light squares because, well, with this pawn on g6, the king will get weak whenever it castles. All right, bishop g3 gets played, of course. Bishop g7, knight b d2. This is a great way to play, especially against lower rated players. You play the TLC, as I like to call it, the Tory London Collie. The only difference between those three different openings, in the Tory you put your bishop g5, in the London you put it on f4, and the Collie you leave it on c1. In fact, you even have the Collie Zugzart, where you put the dark square bishop to b2. But other than that, the pawn structure is all the same. It's very, very solid opening. So yeah, I'm not going to do anything crazy. I've already got a long-term weakness. Right now, all I have to do is just castle, and then we'll see what happens. c5 got played. Another good move here. Pawn to c3. And here, another not best move. He takes right away. Taking right away gives white the advantage because, well, white wants to take back with the e-pawn. And, well, yeah, this is the pawn structure you want. White's going to be aiming for kingside attack and try to control on the e5 square. And typically we'll put a rook to e1 to try and control this file. All right, knight f8. Really didn't know what he was up to here. I mean, I guess the idea was either go to g6 or e6. With that being said, it's a little too creative here for my taste. And, yeah, I'm not sure about this move at all. The only thing I will say, I was looking at him developing his bishop here, and where's it going to go to? Where's the best square for this bishop? Can you tell me which one it is? Should we go to d7, e6, f5, or g4? The reason why we're asked this is because, well, it helps us make a decision where our bishop should be placed. So where was the best square? It was f5 here, I believe, because this is the strong square that they're trying to control, or Dominic's trying to control, the e4 square. With that being said, the move was very simple. Bishop goes to d3, controlling this. And I was hoping that he would play something like bishop g4, because, well, it's not really a threat here. Well, sometimes your prayers are answered. Bishop g4 gets played, and it's in like this little pseudo pin. Now, it is a pin, but it's not really a pin, just because I can move my queen away whenever I want to. With that being said, I like this next move I play. I play pawn to h3. What's the idea behind this? Well, there's two different ideas. One idea is that, well, I am attacking the bishop. What I'm trying to do is either see if he wants to take the knight, which will give me the bishop pair, and I'm very happy, or he'll play his bishop back to h5. Why is that important? Well, this diagonal is a bit weak right now. I would have loved to have gone queen a4 check or even bishop b5 check, but this bishop was one of the main defenders here. Mind you, there's still two knights over here, but the bishop is a very good one because it can kick you back. So what I was trying to do is kick him off this diagonal. He played bishop h5. Awesome. Queen a4 check and knight back to d7. So, of course, we see that we can't go to queen d7 here. What's the move here? White's to move and win. Of course, simple chess here. Now we get to pin and win this queen. So, he played knight 8 to d7, and nothing crazy here. I went ahead and threw my knight to e5 here. If he allows me, I will play something like bishop b5 in the future if he doesn't castle. And since he hadn't castled yet, I didn't really see any harm of this. You know, there's ways that people will play traps, but they don't improve their position. Now, this move is not a trap per se. It's really improving my positions because, you know, the knight goes in the center. It was going to go there anyways. But I didn't make any moves that was going to hurt my position, and that's what a lot of weak players will do. They'll play a trap that actually the moves that they play to set it up is not part of the main strategy, which improves the position. It's just a cheap trap. If they don't fall for it, well, then you just have all those weaknesses because you weren't improving your position. So knight e5 puts pressure on the knight. Maybe some bishop b5 ideas in the future. With that being said, this improves the position, so I'm very happy about this. He castled, correct move, and I castle. He went ahead and played knight b6 here, which I was very happy to see this because this knight, although it's on a trip to go to a strong square, it's just going the wrong way here. I do want to point out, if knight takes on e5, I would have most likely taken back with the pawn here on e5. So pawn takes on e5. And this is very, very common in these lines, just because what you're trying to do in these lines is get a pawn to e5, and this helps build up the attack against this king, because this knight is the main defender for h7. Although this bishop is here, things are a little bit different, but white still holds and maintains a good advantage here. All right. Like I said, he went ahead and threw his knight to b6, attacking my queen. There's only one good square for my queen that I can see. Queen c2, putting pressure on the king side. This is definitely where I'm going to be heading, just because, well, the g5 pawn was pushed a little too early. And again, this light squares are going to be really, really tough for him. And now, in my perfect life, my queen would be in front of the bishop. I remember a master telling me this when I was younger. Put your queen in front of the bishop. This threatens checkmate. With your queen behind the bishop, this threatens a check. Two different ideas, right? So queen c2 got played. Not the move I really wanted to play, but, one that was the best thing I could do at the time. Dominic went ahead and played knight c8, and now I realized what he was up to. He was trying to play this idea d6 and then go to e4, the strong square. The problem with this is, how many moves was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, and with one move of pawn f3, I can just kill the idea here. So although it's interesting, I just don't think it was the best here. All right, it is now my turn, and I challenge you to find a strong plan here. We're going to play against this bishop. Push pause if you can. Find a strong plan here to put pressure on this bishop. Well, hopefully you found it. Here, we found the very strong idea. Top move by computer, bishop to h2. Well, that's a weird looking move. It's weird if you don't consider the ideas. Here, what you're trying to do is play pawn to g4, and, well, the bishop has nowhere good to go, and you'll just snack on a pawn. With that being said, I hear somebody else saying, hey, can't we just play f4 here? f4 is a move you can play. The reason why I chose not to do this one is because black can play g4 here. And it's actually surprisingly hard to try and open up this position from what I had seen. And, well, I want open files, I want open diagonals, and this is just not going to help me out like I wanted to. The open g file won't be as good for me. The open f file would be great. Now, if I knew my opponent was going to go ahead and take here, oh my gosh, then yes, I'd be very happy. Rook takes on f4, double up the rooks, and now I got like this h6 weakness, the knight's coming over here. This is exactly what I want. But with g4 here, it was not giving me what I was looking for. So this bishop h2 move got played. I'm threatening to win a pawn now with pawn to g4. He found one of the few moves that is creating counterplay. Pawn to g4 himself here. And I'm actually very proud of this next move. What do you play here as white? Another very, very hard move, at least for some people, to find here. I do encourage you to push pause. All right, hopefully you pushed pause. You looked at the position for a little while, and hopefully came up with the right idea, which was f3? What? That seems like a weird move. Only if you're not thinking about it again. Here, f3 is saying I'm going to take the pawn on g4. And, well, if he takes on f3, well, then I'm very happy. I'll go ahead and play pawn to g4 anyways. I'll win the pawn, and then I'll take on f3 here. Notice I'm not too worried about pushing my kingside pawns as well. Look, what pieces does he have to attack me with? All his pieces are still really on the back row over here. The only thing left is these bishops. What happens if he takes on h3? Same idea. I play pawn to g4. This pawn's not going anywhere. I can get it at my leisure. And I have the pawn, excuse me, on f3 here, which is going to take away this whole plan that Dominic had, which was trying to get the knight to e4. So I was very, very happy with this idea. It did take a little while to come up with, but at the end it was well worth the time used. For those who were looking at h takes g4, not a bad idea at all. I just didn't like this because after knight takes g4, well, he's threatening some trades here. I don't really want trades to happen, and I guess if I play knight takes, bishop takes, well, I don't win my pawn after all. I am still a bit better here, and maybe I can play this f3 g4 plan, although I'm not too fond of it right now. I would be looking at maybe rook a e1, maybe even f3 g4 here, but f3 is not going to be the best because he could just bring his bishop back to d7 now. The other move order was definitely more aggressive and also more forced. So after bishop h2, g4, f3, pawn takes g4, bishop went to g6. And here, well, this is a fun question for you. Which piece do you want to keep? Do you want to keep the bishop or do you want to keep the knight? It's really fun. You could ask your chess personality which way to do it. After analyzing this for a while, I really love my light square bishop. I really love that knight there. It was hard for me to make the decision, but I went ahead and did Bishop takes. I decided to keep my knight. These knights are just great. They're very, very tricky, and well, it's on a great square here. I don't want to move it. Pawn takes, and here I took with the knight. You could take with the queen here, of course, but there's no threats. And with knight takes, well, you're just getting a free tempo because you want a pawn and you're attacking the rook. The rook went to f7. Knight back to e5. Just a little game of cat and mouse. I want him to know who was in charge of the game, right? It's always psychologically hard whenever your opponent's just forcing you to do things, and well, you can't stop them, right? Rook went back to f8, and now I played my rook to e1. Now I have all my pieces pretty much in the game. Well, maybe not this knight so much, but we're going to be fixing that pretty soon here. Rook e1 was the idea to put pressure on the backwards pawn on the e file, which is the e pawn. Excuse me. Now black went ahead and played knight d6. Again, I don't know where this knight is going to, so even c4 might be a move, but I can always kick it away. And if they ever take, well, again, I'm very happy to take with the rook, bishop, even pawn here, and I'll slowly start expanding forward. All right, I mentioned already this knight was not doing too much over here. Let's find a path for it to help out in this chess game. Which way do we go? Here I found the path. Knight b3, knight c5, looking at either going to e6, or maybe we'll jump to d3 and then go to f4 and again to g6. Right now there's so many weak squares, I definitely encourage you to push pause and look around and find them. All right, did you find some weak squares? Well, we have e6, f5, g6, f7, h5. These squares are squares that we control on their side of the board that we control more than they do. And e6, although it's not controlled right now, well, they don't control it, so that's going to be a square that we're going to be using. And you can see how these knights are doing a great job for it. The theme of this game is definitely weak squares and taking advantage of them. All right, here we go. Knight b3, knight h7. This move actually caught me by surprise, and I was very surprised how strong this move was. I was like, knight h7. Okay, so the idea here was to go to g5 and then put pressure on f3. Okay, well, we got some weak squares here. Let's get to work, guys. Here I went ahead and played knight g6 right away, attacking the rook. Rook went to f7, and then now I played knight to c5 here. I do want to mention real quick that there was no possibility of black playing here pawn to b6, stopping my knight to go into c5. White to move and win. Hopefully you see it. Yeah, here it's just a simple tactic, knight c6, and now we have a double attack on the queen and the pawn on e7. So we'll just win a pawn here, and I'm pretty sure the game would have gone smoothly. That's why he went ahead and found this move, knight to h7, knight to g6, rook to f7, knight c5. So you can see these knights are becoming very, very menacing here. Knight coming to e6. These knights are just controlling all the squares here. He went ahead and played knight g5, and then I played bishop f4. Very simple idea. I want to try and get rid of this knight because, well, this knight check on f3 is very annoying here. Okay. He went ahead and played bishop f6, the best move. And now I went ahead and played knight e5 here. The idea was to try and let the queen back into the game. And also a little trap here. If black's not paying attention, he could lose this game quite fast. For instance, bishop takes, bishop takes. Ooh, is that a free pawn? It is not. Knight takes f3 check, rook takes f3, rook takes f3, and queen g6 check. And, well, you're just getting checkmated here very, very soon. King f8 and knight to e6. Always good to defend things with tactics. Using strategy by using a piece is always good, but, you know, it's always good to challenge your opponent to do calculations. So I played knight e5 here. He saw this, of course, and played rook h7. Unfortunately, that's the only square this rook can go to. If you go to g7, you simply take on g5, and then the knight will go to e6, whether you take or not. And the same thing happens if you bring the rook back to f8. Again, you take on g5, and then you can go to e6. Although queen g6 here check looks pretty strong here too. All right, with that being said, well, knight e5, rook h7. I sat here for quite a while and really tried to figure out queen g6 checking ideas, and unfortunately I just could not come up with them. So what do you do whenever you can't find a strong move here? Play a simple move. There's so many winning lines in this game, especially with the queen g6 checks, the knight stuff. Bishop takes g5. Sometimes it's best just to choose the easiest option. And, I mean, you can sit here for a while and analyze and look at all these different things. And, well, there's just so many ideas here, it just becomes a little bit too much. And when things get like that, sometimes it's easy sometimes it's best to just use the KISS principle, keep it super simple. So I just play queen b3 here. Definitely not the best move. I had a +6 advantage, now I'm at +5. With that being said, I have a very easy idea, which is to win one of these pawns over here. And there really is no good way to stop this from happening. And, well, I mean, look at his pieces. The rook is very bad over here. Queen's still on the starting square. Knight's on d6, which is conquered because it can't go to any good squares around here. This knight on g5, well, I'm going to take it whenever I want to. I'm not really in a hurry right now. There's a rook on h7 for some reason, trying to do this. And, well, the best thing the bishop can do is really trade itself off in the future. To my great surprise, at this point, my opponent went ahead and resigned. I'm not saying that this was a position that you want to play, but I was pretty surprised that he resigned so fast. But if you think about it psychologically, this is just so tough. As I mentioned with all his pieces, they're just unorganized and they're not controlling any good squares. And you look at my pieces, well, they look great, right? My knights are on e5, c5, bishop's doing a good job, queen's doing a good job, and, well, maybe this rook is the only thing I can get to a better square here. But, yeah, at this point, Dominic went ahead and threw in the towel, and we shook hands, and that was it. Yeah, there's some sample lines here that we can take a look at. Knight f7 to try and guard the pawn. Knight takes b7, just grab the pawn, and knight c5 back. I'm not too worried about going into this endgame. I feel like it's a very good endgame here. Bishop takes, rook, and then we can just take with queen takes d5 check here too. That's if he misses this, of course. I mean, he could have definitely just, seen this and taken, and I'll take back with the a pawn, so I can play my pawn b4, and then I have a new weakness to attack. And, of course, if he takes on e5 again, I just take with rook takes, and everything is just falling like ripe fruit here. And I'll play king h2 to grab this pawn. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this game. We'll see you in the next one.